Yo, what up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome back to Let's Talk About Horror with your boy Walterdoom, where you could work any shift except the last one. Fuck that shift. Alright, but how is everyone? How y'all doing? I'm kind of hyped today, I got shit that I had to get done today, laundry day and shit, man. Got that shit done, bro. Just right before I gotta go to work and shit. Work, right? We all gotta do it. But how's it going? How y'all feeling? I mean, if y'all was with me from the last two episodes, I'm glad y'all here for this third one. You guys made it. What's good? I'm kind of hyped today. I mean, I listened to that new Eminem album. I mean, it's probably not so new anymore, but I mean, it's still new in my eyes because it's the latest one that came out. That shit is called Kamikaze, man. And if you listen to that shit before, that album is lit. I mean, old school Eminem is back. Slim Shady is back. The real Slim Shady just stood up. That other motherfucker was an imposter. Yeah, man. I mean, I just felt like that album, he just really came back and returned to form of the good old Eminem. How we used to remember him. Like right after the Slim Shady LP. No, not the Slim Shady LP. The Eminem album. The Marshall Mathers LP. I mean, not to say the Eminem show was bad. Eminem's show was cool. Encore was fucking horrible. I don't know if anybody listens to Encore, but Encore was fucking horrible. He followed up with Relapse, and I didn't like Relapse at first, but it did come back to me later on when I listened to it over the years. I actually gave it a second listen, and it was actually really good to me. The Relapse album is actually not that bad. If you really take the time to listen. It's not like a regular digestible Eminem album, but it's definitely almost there. It was almost there. Recovery, forgettable. Marshall Mathers LP2, forgettable. Recovery, trash. Oh man, don't blow smoke at me, Eminem. But definitely Kamikaze is the album to go. But this is not a music channel. This is a horror movie channel, baby. Nah, let me stop. Last night I watched this movie called Last Shift. It's on Netflix. I don't know if any of you guys checked it out before, but basically, if you guys kind of caught my little teaser when I opened up the show, but Last Shift is pretty much about this rookie cop who is guarding this closing police station. And while she's there, she's dealing with a lot of paranormal activity that happens around it. Ooh, insidious, right? But anyway, yeah, she's dealing with a lot of paranormal activity. She gets strange phone calls from this girl who says she's about to get captured. She sees people running in and out. Doors are closing, things are moving. Just like any other ghost movie. I would have to say my experience watching it, it was more of an easy watch than any other horror movie that I've been watching recently as of late. I've actually been trying to watch more and more movies ever since I started this channel. So my knowledge could kind of sometimes be not fully expert level, I should say. But again, this is just an opinion channel. This is not, and I've stated this before, this is not an analysis channel or anything like that. I may have my analytical moments or my frame of like seeing things, but this is not anything to kind of like digest, deconstruct, or whatever. This is just simple opinions, experience, and just having you guys enjoy the ride and the party. So, in the movie, well, not in the movie, actually, I was talking about why this one was an easy watch. So this one was a more easy watch because it wasn't like any other ghost movie. There wasn't so much as like the sharp cut scenes where you get shocked. There wasn't so much banging noises or sharp noises to kind of freak you out. I mean, it has that in there, but it's not so much like in other horror movies like Babadook or Veronica, or even Ju-on the Grudge, which I will talk about later on in another podcast that is coming pretty soon. I really can't wait to talk about that one. Man, you guys are in for some shit. But this movie was very easy to watch. I mean, if you're somebody that doesn't really like all those banging noises going like, or hearing people whisper like, help me, help, he's right behind you, watch out, help me. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna scream in nobody's ear, so you guys don't worry, because that was the next thing I was about to talk about, was like, yeah, you don't have anybody screaming in your ear or anything like that. But it's definitely a more easy, accessible watch than most other scary movies. Is it a better story? Hell no, not by a mile. I mean, the woman herself, her story was very basic, and it was just basic. Her dad used to be on the police force. He got killed in a fight against these Manson family type people, and that's about it. Nothing really developing from her story. I mean, she got like a somewhat bad relationship with her mom because her mom doesn't want her to be a police officer because her dad died on the line. Nothing more to develop from it. There's really no real character development from this movie at all. Hence why I said this movie is just all right. I think there's more freaky, creepy elements that come about in this movie, which is what carries the movie. And what I mean, like, there's a scene where you will see, like, she's in a jail cell. She just locked up this homeless person who broke in there. Now, I at first thought the homeless man was a ghost, but he wasn't. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. But fuck it. I mean, if you guys are going to watch it, hey, you guys are going to watch it. This shouldn't even deter you away from it. But she finds this homeless man who pisses, like, inside the building. She locks him up, put him in this holding cell. While she's in the holding cell with this dude, the jail cell closes behind her and she's locked in there with him. The homeless dude is kind of knocked out, and all you see is her lose her flashlight. The next thing you know, and she already has the homeless man cuffed. The homeless man is cuffed up and everything. So there's no way this dude could really like get out of the handcuffs, hold the flashlight. So what you see is like a flashlight flashing upon her, and all you hear is a whisper saying, "I'm not gonna hurt you." And it's just whispering on, and she's just like, "Who's there? Who's there?" She thinks it's the homeless man, but the ghost point the flashlight to the homeless man, and all you see is him laid out, still handcuffed, in the corner. So she's like, "Who's there? Who's there?" And literally, she actually talked to this ghost on the phone. And what's crazy about this whole situation is even though she talked to the ghost on the phone, like I said, the police department that she's guarding, they actually moved. Like, all the officers moved to another station that was down the street. And everything got changed, including like the phone line. So everything that was, every 911 call that was coming in is supposed to get rerouted from that station to the new station. So she was receiving phone calls and she didn't even know why. So it was just a lot of creepy elements that go into this film. And like I said, the creepy elements kind of carry this film in a way. But I mean, that's what it's about, man. I mean, it's all about the creepiness of it. Am I right? Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is just get scared from a scary movie. I mean, I was actually kind of freaked out a little bit. I usually don't get freaked out by a lot of scary movies, but parts of it was kind of creepy, meaning like that little part right there. But I mean, it's more of an easy watch. You won't be as creeped out when you're watching this movie. But definitely check out Last Shift, everyone. It's on Netflix. Probably one of the few good movies that's on there. Check it out. Hopefully it's there. Maybe put it on your list for the Halloween month. I know I'm trying to do a lot of horror movies for Halloween and try and compile a list for you guys, which I'm doing today. Hey. Let me stop. Yeah, so today, today's show is gonna be about movies that should be on Netflix. Now, you guys, if you haven't gotten a hold of how I felt about Netflix so far, or if you guys are just now joining the show, let me put it plain and simple as this. Netflix is trash when it comes to the horror genre. And I really do mean, like, it is trash. Like, their selection, I don't know who the fuck is picking these selections, but they need to be fired. Just plain and simple as that. Because I feel like they do not have enough horror films to satisfy my lust for like trying to see a good ass horror movie, especially slasher films. They don't put enough good ass movies on there. So what I did was take the liberty of telling you guys, just telling you guys about 10 movies that I feel should be on there. Chucky, what do you think about that?
What are you, fucking nuts?
Okay, while this asshole is laughing at me, in no particular order, let me give you guys the 10 movies that should be on Netflix. Starting with Friday the 13th franchise. And this is going to be based on franchise or a particular movie in a franchise or just the movie itself. So, first one, like I said, Friday the 13th. This should be a must add. And the reason why I say must add, I mean, it's a classic. You can't deny a classic film to be shown, especially in the month of October. I feel like when the month of October comes, all the Fridays should be there. From 1 to, I don't even give a fuck, maybe Jason X. Maybe even fucking Freddy versus Jason. It could be in up to like Friday the 13th part 5 or 9. It doesn't matter. We need Jason. When I first seen all of the Friday the 13th movies, it was probably the one time I really enjoyed the services of Netflix. And it made me not want to give up actually having a subscription service. I mean, you want to own a subscription service and actually feel like it's coming to good use. It's the company is delivering what you want to see and hearing your opinion about what should be on there. And I feel like Friday the 13th will be one of those movies that would draw a lot of people in if you're a horror fan. I mean, I'm a horror fan, and I just hate sometimes trying to look for a horror movie on Netflix because I'm just like, I don't know if this is good. I don't know if this is good because they got a lot of B-rated horror films, but not a good enough mainstream. I mean, sometimes mainstream movies aren't that great, but one series that is good is definitely the Friday the 13th movies. The next movie that I feel like should be on there is this movie called Darling. So a few months ago, Darling was on Netflix, and the movie centered around this new caretaker taking care of an old New York home for this lady they called the Madame, who is played by Sean Young. The main character is Lauren Ashley Carter, who plays Darling. So what happens is, in this thriller horror, is Darling, she is taking care of this home for the Madame, and what happens is she comes across this necklace, and she's very enthralled by the necklace that she sees, but she also comes across this locked room in the house. She talks to the Madame, and the Madame tells her like not to go into that room by any means. No, you should never go into that room. Throughout the movie, we learn about like how there was the previous caretaker actually committed suicide. She jumped off a balcony. Throughout the movie, and the movie is told by in chapters. What we see in the movie is a bunch of supernatural things happening. Not really supernatural, but kind of like supernatural forces causing Darling to change. And one of those changes is when we finally see her kind of like in full possession mode. The spirit is taking over her, and she kind of goes on a killing spree. And when you see her go on a killing spree, oh my God, Chucky says it's best.
What are you, fucking nuts?
All out, the movie is really good. Like I said, everything is broken down into chapters, so each chapter gives you a new feel for how deep the possession is going. Also, I like the fact that it was shot in black and white. It takes away from the fact of the inconsistent contrast of colors from dark to light. I mean, all you get is just a straight up black and white feel. So if it's dark, it's dark, light is light. And just the whole movie itself was it was good. It was definitely good. And I feel like this should be back on Netflix. They really do need to bring it back. The next movie that I feel like should be on there is Hellraiser Inferno. Now, for the longest time, I mean, if you guys had Netflix for a while and you guys were watching like horror on a consistent basis like I was, you would know like the one fucking series that was like really consistent that was on Netflix was Hellraiser. All the Hellraiser series was on Netflix for a very long time. Out of all those movies, because I did not like any of them. Well, majority of the Hellraiser movies, I could say I really did not like. And I especially did not like the last one, which I can't remember the name of. But that one was the worst because they didn't use the same dude that played Pinhead. Doug Bradley didn't play Pinhead anymore. They actually used a new guy to play Pinhead. And the way he looked, he did not look like Pinhead. It was like the same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street when they tried to reboot the series with the new Freddy Krueger that did not look like Freddy Krueger. So, but the one Hellraiser movie that I thought that was really good was Hellraiser Inferno. And what Hellraiser Inferno centered around was this detective who was played by Craig Schaefer. And what happens is, in the movie, Craig Schaefer's character discovers the Lamarchin's box, which we all know is the box that is used in Hellraiser, the little puzzle box. And whenever that is solved or even played with, that is calling up the demons from hell, which we get like the Cenobites that are all dressed up in BDSM clothing. And what happens in the movie is he solves the box, he plays with the box, and then a series of unfortunate events happen. So a murder takes place when he's with this prostitute, and pretty much it looks like he is being framed for murder. So what happens is he starts trying to go on a search party. Well, not really a search party, but more of an investigation to find out who is trying to set him up. And throughout this search of like trying to find out who's setting him up, he's having nightmares of like the Cenobites and Pinhead himself. He's also in like a nightmarish reality where he's seeing like all the Cenobites and shit coming after him, and just seeing like monsters and ghouls just appearing everywhere. The reason why I like this movie particularly because I felt like it had more of a storyline and more of a slower paced development of trying to like figure out who is trying to set him up or where's this movie going to take us. And it also had like a bit of a detective type storyline to it in a way. Almost like a little noir in a way for horror. So I thought it was a really good take for the Hellraiser series. It felt like a fresh take that was way different from like all the other movies, which really focused heavily on just the box itself and all the Cenobites coming after whoever solves the box. This one was really different to me. And I feel like this is the one that should really be on Netflix. I know right now they have the first Hellraiser, and I believe they have the second Hellraiser on Netflix at this moment. But I feel like they really need to bring back Inferno. That to me was the best movie that was made in the series. Moving on to the next one that I think should be on there, It. Not the old school It with Tim Curry, but It with Bill Skarsgård. And the reason why I say that, well, plain and simple as that, I haven't seen the movie. I hear a lot of good things about the new It. I hear that it's really creepy. I hear that it's more violent and gory than the original, since this one is an actual movie, and the original It is, I believe, was actually put on television. So they were kind of limited back then with how much gore and violence they could actually get away with to show in the movie. But with this one, since it was actually made for film, it was all hands off deck. You know, they were off the chain. They were free to do whatever they wanted to do. So for me, I mean, I haven't seen the movie. I hear good things about it. This is something I want to see personally. This is like really just my personal my personal wish list of wanting to see this movie because I missed out. All right. Next one on the list is the Conjuring series. And this is another one that I really did miss out on. They did bring the first one to Netflix like not too long ago, and I actually watched it. And I thought it was pretty interesting just watching the Conjuring movie. I mean, we get to see Annabelle in the beginning parts of the movie and towards the end. But the movie itself is really interesting, just learning about how the certain exorcism that need to be taking place, that like the mom, she was like possessed and whatever. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys seen The Conjuring. If you haven't checked out The Conjuring yet on Netflix, you guys are sleeping. But definitely, it was interesting. We see like the mother of the home that they center around in the movie. She was the one that was possessed, and they were trying to figure out ways how to get rid of the possession. And it was crazy because, like, it didn't matter whether they left somewhere else. The spirits was already attached to her. And since the spirits was attached to her, it didn't matter where she tried to go. Them trying to get away from the house didn't help anything. Because in the end, the ghost was going to follow. So I thought that first movie was interesting to see how it broke down and how they got rid of the spirit. It made me want to see more of like what was in The Conjuring. So I'm talking about watching Conjuring 2, all the Annabelle series. And if you guys paid attention from my last episode, I mean, I haven't seen The Nun yet. I'm planning on seeing it soon. So, I mean, probably next time when I record, I probably will already watch it. I'll try not to spoil it for you guys if I do see it. All right, so moving on. The next movie I feel like that should be on Netflix should be Scream. All the Scream series. Those are classics to me. Like, for me, my favorite series goes like this. It'll be the Saw series first. Scream would come up next, then Friday the 13th. So, Scream was always Scream was always my favorite series, like scary movie, because of just one simple person.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Whew, that is my favorite fucking line. I love to fool people with that shit. Yeah, man. I mean, I gotta say, I watched the Scream television series, and I'm gonna have a full breakdown of that later on in another episode. But man, nothing beats fucking Ghostface, bro. Like, Ghostface is the shit. So I seen all the Scream movies. I love all of them except the third one. The third one was probably the weakest one to me because even to this day, I still can't remember too much of the film. I remember more of Scream 4, maybe because I watched it a lot, because right now it's on Netflix and I'm watching it right now. I remember more of Scream 4 than I do of Scream 3. And I feel like Scream 3 was one of the weakest chapter of the series. Scream 1 is definitely a fucking classic because it's always breaking down all the meta comedy and what have you. So let me just touch on the premise for a real quick second. For those that are probably never watched Scream before, maybe because of, you're probably too young or you just wasn't interested in watching it. But Scream is centered around the character Sidney Prescott, who is played by Neve Campbell. What we learned about Sidney is when she was younger, her mom got killed, just like murdered. She didn't know who killed her mother. We learned who did do it in the third installment of Scream. But throughout the series, in the first two, she kind of blames Cotton Weary, who is played by Liv Schreiber, for the murder. With Sidney, she gets these phone calls by an unknown person who she thinks is playing a prank on her, but turns out trying to murder her. The killer not only targets her, but the killer also targets people around her, which is like friends, classmates, people that she knows. My favorite installment from Scream would have to probably be part 2, just because I felt like there were more body counts. It was more meta. And the thing about Scream also, which is like what I like about it, it's a series that blends comedy and horror in a beautiful fashion, as well as being self-aware of what it is. And that's the good thing that's about Scream. I mean, it kind of deconstructs everything about horror. And kind of like when you're hearing all this breakdown, it kind of makes you feel like a nerd a bit. At least I felt like a nerd because I'm like, damn, that is true. I mean, I couldn't put it into words like Randy did in the movie, but those things are true. But I feel like out of all of the Screams, the third installment was probably the weakest because I don't really remember too much about it. I remember more Scream 4 than I do Scream 3 because Scream 3 was not that strong to me. Scream 4, it deals with like a new group of teenagers that's like the new showrunners of the series, but they do bring back Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette as like the original people of the series because they're the lone survivors in the movie. But Scream 3, I mean, if they don't bring it back onto Netflix, I mean, that's okay. But I would say definitely bring that series to Netflix. That needs to come back. And I mean, there's nothing else I could say more about it. Moving on. The next series that I think should be, well, not next series. Well, yeah, I guess we could say it's the next series. The next series that should be on there is a Scary Movie series. But I do not want all the Scary Movies on there. Scary Movie 1 and 2 should do. Because those were the heydays of parody comedy in a film. So for you guys that are unaware or never watched it, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys watched it once or twice in your life. But Scary Movies is a parody movie, and it parodies all the famous, like, all types of horror movies and other genres at that. They parody Scream, which is heavily in the first one. They also parody like Haunted House, Poltergeist, maybe It. They parody all types of different movies. They even parody pop culture. I don't know if you guys remember the Nike commercial where people was like, where the basketball players were dribbling and they dribbled in rhythm. That's like an early 2000s thing. I mean, if you were born in 2000, you definitely would not remember that that commercial. You could probably just YouTube that shit. But definitely scary movies need to be brought back. I know the jokes are outdated. I remember watching Scary Movie 2, and I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, all these jokes are really outdated. They're funny, but they're definitely outdated. If anybody that's like born, I guess, I want to say after 98 or so, maybe, well, actually maybe 90, yeah, 98. So anybody born after 98, I feel like would not really know what the movie is talking about or the kind of jokes that they're trying to bring into the movie. But as a nostalgic value and just for pure comedy, definitely I would like to see that movie back because it is definitely a classic in its own right to me. And it's definitely something that needs to be brought back to Netflix. And yeah, I mean, moving on. The next one that I want to touch on that should be definitely on Netflix, and I kind of harped on this on another podcast. At least I believe I did. They need to have the Nightmare on Elm Street series, all of it. They need to have all the Freddys on there. I've never watched the Freddy Krueger movies at all. I've only watched the first Nightmare, the second Nightmare, and a new Nightmare. And the one that I like most out of those three that I've seen was A New Nightmare because of the storyline, how they pick it up from the first movie, and how like they're kind of like doing kind of like a Scream type tactic because it is by Wes Craven. What they do is like the reality of the actors in the first Nightmare is being blended with the characters from the movie in the new Nightmare. So basically, throughout the movie, the characters are actually playing themselves throughout the film. And what's happening through the film is that they're aware of their movie, but Krueger himself is trying to make himself a reality, part of like the real world. And I feel like the approach that they took to kind of handling it was done very masterfully. I mean, I myself was just like, damn, we're looking at a reality of the characters, but at the same time, all they're being seen as from Freddy Krueger is these characters in a movie. So the character in a movie is now coming into reality. And eventually, I mean, they get sucked back into the movie and we get transitioned into like the characters being that role from the movie. So, I mean, it's a really good film. I thought it was a really good blend and new approach and fresh take on the series, even though I haven't seen like a majority of the film, of the film series. I seen Freddy vs. Jason and I thought that shit was terrible. I didn't even bother to see like the new Freddy Krueger movie because I just thought it was going to be horrible, especially when Robert Englund is not playing Freddy Krueger. It's like, I don't know who this new motherfucker is, but yeah, I am skipping that one. Besides, he won't have witty lines like
Krueger! Well, it ain't Dr. Seuss.
Elvis! Elvis!
or even this line like this. This one's a classic to me.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Or even like a creepy ass song that's still stuck in everybody's head today, like overall, I really do want to watch the series. I do want to see what happens in all of them. I want to see how everything is played out with Freddy Krueger. And I mean, yeah, hopefully Netflix one day will manage to get all the series on there because it's definitely something that we all need to watch. The next movie series that I'm about to bring up is another series I haven't really watched. Also, I haven't seen one movie, at least with some of these movies, I've seen at least one of them. But with this one, I haven't seen it at all, and I've always been interested in watching it. But this one is The Purge. And we all know what The Purge is. I mean, it's been out in theaters for a while. It's about like the one day where everybody is purging, where every crime is pretty much legal. I do want to see how everything is played out in this movie. It has an interesting premise to me. The only thing is like I'm not a big person that likes to go to the theaters a lot. And like I stated in my last podcast, I mean, I'm not a fan of like going to big crowds and all that. I'm just not. I mean, unless I'm there for like some kind of music festival or something where, you know, I have no choice, I usually try to avoid the crowds as much as possible. But yeah, I rarely go to the theaters to watch movies. But I've always been interested in watching this particular series. And I know it's like they're now, I believe, into like either a fourth installment of the movie. I'm not too sure. It's either third or fourth. But either way, I've always been interested in trying to watch The Purge. I hope one day Netflix could kind of get that series onto their platform, just like how they got The Conjuring on there. Even if it's just one film, I would greatly appreciate that. But other than that, I mean, hopefully one day I could check it out. Maybe I need to buy the series. Who knows? I mean, if you guys have somewhere where I could check out The Purge, hey, let me know in the comments. Just let me know in the comments. But moving on, the last but not least is a movie. It's pretty obscure. It's a Italian-Canadian film thriller called Die. And I've seen this movie like a couple of years ago. They've they brought it onto Netflix a few times, and the longest they had it, I mean, they didn't really keep it on there for long, which is unfortunate because it's definitely a good movie. What the movie is based on the premise of these characters, and they are imprisoned by this one guy in his society. And what happens is they are forced to either roll the dice to either save a life or kill a life, depending on what they roll. Like I said, it's almost like Saw. It definitely has a Saw-like behavior, except, you don't hear fucking Jigsaw saying shit like,
I want to play a game.
the one thing that I do remember from the movie, because it has been a while since I watched that film, but in one scene, we have this like drugged out junkie girl who literally drugs herself into a coma. And when she gets found naked in the streets, in the alley by police, because right now they were looking for her and a few other people that are trapped with this dude. The movie is definitely interesting. It does have an interesting premise. It's everything you would expect from a torture porn type film, because there is plenty of gore in it, but not quite like Saw though. Saw is pretty gory, and I do love the goriness of Saw. But Die has gore, but it's a little bit tamed, a little bit. But that will be the last film that I think should be on Netflix. That is my top 10. Yeah. All right. Have you guys ever thought about some crazy shit? I mean, let me tell you about some crazy shit that I seen on Netflix. Have you guys ever thought what life would be like if fucking Siri just knew every fucking thing about you? Like, she knew your favorite color, your favorite clothes, favorite shoes, the first girl you ever dated, the first girl you ever fucked, the first time you got an STD. Okay, that part. I'm kidding on that last part, you guys. But it's this movie that I recently seen on Netflix. It's called Bedeviled. And it's literally based on what I just talked about just now. It's pretty much an app that knows everything about you. So what happens in this app is this app literally feeds off your fears. Now, what I'm about to tell you guys is, first time watching this movie, it's fucking stupid. It is fucking stupid. It was the worst fucking movie I've watched. So the movie I'm talking about, if you guys haven't figured it out, it's called Bedeviled. It's a horror thriller that was made in 2016. And it is currently on Netflix, since we're on the topic of Netflix. And I just did not like it. So like I said, the premise is basically based around this app that is terrorizing 5 teens. The teens are Alice, Cody, Dan, Gavin, and Haley. And what happens with these teens are they are at first in grief because their friend Nikki died, but they don't know how. They're trying to figure out how her death was even caused, and for all they know, I mean, they knew she was like a healthy young girl, but she died from a heart attack. How does a healthy young girl have that happen to her? So the characters, they get this invite to try this app out, which is like a Siri type app that knows everything. And they download the app. First, the app goes to Cody, who was dating Nikki. And the app goes to Alice, which is like Nikki's friend. And then soon enough, everyone else in the group get the app also. What I thought was terrible, and believe me, this movie is terrible, is not only the premise of the movie, but everything that follows in the movie. Okay. For one, this is supposed to be an app that feeds off your fears. I don't know if the It movie did not exist in their universe. I mean, I would believe because it's a horror movie, it acknowledges other horror movies to at least exist in their world. To me, I'm just like, did none of them see the movie It at all? I mean, Pennywise fed off the fears of children. What do you think those children did when they had enough of Pennywise? They fought back. And how did they fight back? By facing their fears. So, in this movie, this app, which is called Mr. Bedevil, I know, very slick name, right? I mean, it should have gave away like, hey, Mr. Bedevil, hey, devil, oh my god, this guy is evil, which none of these characters seem to get. I mean, I don't know, maybe because the characters in this movie are supposed to be high school students or college students. I have no fucking clue. I never really was clear what these motherfuckers were in this movie, to be honest. I mean, at one moment I'm thinking like, okay, they're all high school students. At another moment I'm like, nah, they might be actually college students. I mean, like in one scene, when they first have the app, this motherfucking Gavin is trying to figure out what is the x squared equal to fucking 81, which is 9 squared. 9 squared makes up 81. Which to me, I'm like, you don't need an app for that. Like, I can understand people being bad at math, but come on now. If anybody knows simple multiplication, 9 times 9 is 81. Come on, dude. 9 squared is just 9 times 9. Get that shit together, bro. But that was one scene I was just like, okay, maybe they're in high school because he's trying to figure out the square root and shit. But then I think they're in college because they're kind of doing things like their own way, driving cars. I mean, I guess driving cars doesn't mean like you're in college or anything. But just the free roaming and the knowledge that most of the characters have in the movie seemed a little more advanced to me than usual college age students. But that's just my thoughts. I mean, I couldn't figure out whether they were in high school or college. I don't know, that shit was confusing to me. But yeah, the characters, it seemed like they never saw the movie It. And some of their fears was ridiculous to me also. I mean, since we're on the topic of their fears, some of their fears were ridiculous to me also. Like, let me touch on Haley's fear, the character Haley. So this character, she's the friend of Alice and Nikki, but she's a jealous friend because she feels like she's never good enough to be the best friends of Alice and Nikki. So Haley has like this strange relationship with the character Dan, which is more like a fuck buddy relationship. That's pretty much it. But after they have sex, they talk about their fears. Dan's fear is literally this woman that got murdered from his parents' home village, which makes kind of sense in a way because they found this woman murdered. Now he's hearing this story as a child. When you hear a story about a child, I mean, that's almost like traumatizing in a way. So he hears about how this woman gets murdered and they don't know who murdered her. That freaks him out. Now, I don't get why he's more afraid of the woman than it is the mysterious murderer. That was one thing that didn't make sense either, but hey, I didn't write this movie. I mean, shit. So Alice talks about her fear. Her fear is literally a fucking teddy bear. Not just any teddy bear, but like a real ugly teddy bear. So she got this teddy bear from her dad. And I don't know what kind of drugs her dad was on, but her dad won this teddy bear at a carnival. And when he gave it to her, it was a real ugly teddy bear. The thing about it was, the reason why she remembers this shit the most, and I don't get why she's fearful of it, but she said it's the only time he ever bought anything for her. Now, if I go through all of these people's fears, they don't sound like real fears. They sound like more traumatizing situations than fears. Like Dan's fear about the woman that was murdered. That's traumatizing to hear. I mean, well, maybe traumatizing, but I could see why he could possibly fear that woman. But in same respects, I mean, I feel like the fear should be more about who murdered her, more than the fucking woman herself. I mean, I can understand they told him some bullshit like, oh yeah, ever since she was murdered and found from that well murdered, her ghost has been terrorizing the neighborhood ever since. That would be some smart shit to write. I don't know what the fuck these writers were thinking. But that would have been some smart shit to write. To kind of bring in the psychological fear of this woman. I didn't get that shit. Now, Haley, let me get on her ass real quick. What the fuck? What the absolute fuck? She literally feared an ugly teddy bear, which the motherfucker looked like the nigga Snuggles. I don't know how many of you guys remember Snuggles from back in the day. Was just a little teddy bear promoting the Snuggle laundry detergent and all that. If you guys remember that shit, if you don't remember that shit, look it up. Google that shit. And then YouTube Snuggle on Mad TV. That shit is fucking hilarious. Oh man, that shit is fucking funny. But yeah, I couldn't see the fear for Haley dealing with like the fucking teddy bear. I could see it more as a traumatizing experience. Which it really was. It was just a traumatizing experience. I mean, and to be honest, we didn't get enough information about her dad to really like say like, oh, well, this must be traumatizing. I mean, because all I know is that what he did was just go to a carnival and gave her an ugly teddy bear. And that was it. To me, I'm just wondering, like, couldn't they give it a better backstory? Like, maybe, I don't know. Haley's dad was an alcoholic. All he did was drink. And one day he decided he wanted to get his life together because all he did was drink in front of Haley, drink in front of their mom, beat the mom up all the time. He lost his job, lost his car, lost his will to live. But somehow always has like this staggering bar tab because the people know him so well, because he's there every day. he is cleaning up at the bar just in trade for some drinks instead of a paycheck. So one day, he decides to wake up, see that there's a carnival in town. He's thinking about his action in recent months and just becomes regretful from how he's treating his wife and how he's treating his daughter, because he not only is abusing his wife, but he accidentally abused Haley also by hitting her for whatever reason. So one day he decides to go to the carnival. He plays this game. Let's just say he's like throwing a ball at a bunch of bottles. He remembers I'm kind of jumping ahead. But he plays the game. He knocks down the first batch of bottles. He wins the prize. A little small prize, let's say it's just a little small teddy bear, a size of a plushie, as you will say. So he decides, hey, why not? Let's try again. As he plays and keeps knocking bottle after bottle after bottle, he starts to remember all the good times that he spent back in his younger days, playing for his school baseball team and taking them to the championship and winning as a pitcher, before he lost his scholarship to college because of an injury that he got the next year in high school, which was his senior year in high school, which scouts were looking at him, claiming him to be top priority in his town. Top pitcher in his town. So he ends up getting injured from, let's just say he got into a fight. He went into a bar with a fake ID, got into a fight with someone, and they stabbed him in his pitching arm. Okay, you guys, I'm kind of spitballing a little bit. But anyway, the school that hears about him, he ends up losing his scholarship, as well as he's in the hospital spending some time there. But anyway, let's jump forward to the story that I'm making up about this backstory that should have been in the movie. All right. So he's knocking bottle after bottle after bottle till he gets the grand prize, which was this ugly looking bear. So he decides, in a somewhat drunken but close to sober state, he thinks, let me get this for my daughter Haley. And that is the backstory of how the ugly teddy bear became a traumatizing experience for Haley, because after he gave her the bear, he died in a drunk driving incident by coming home with a friend who was driving drunk. And that's it. Simple as that. Simple as that. I mean, I put a lot into the backstory, but it could have been something as simple as that, as far as a backstory dealing with that character. Like I said, most of these characters just have traumatizing experience. I mean, Gavin is the only one who has the real fear. He has a fear of clowns. And that's understandable. I mean, who the fuck has a fear of clowns? I mean, I don't have a fear of clowns. I could deal with clowns, man. Which is why I really do want to see it come onto Netflix. But yeah, his fear sounds like legit fear. Cody, his fear was a legit fear. And that could also be traumatizing also in a way. Because Cody's fear was white people. As funny as it is, white people and cops. And that was one thing I felt like this movie did good. Was two things. Which was two topics that they touched on, which I haven't seen in many horror movies. But the concept of technology and how it overruns our lives, which is what Mr. Bedevil is, in a way. But yeah, how technology overruns our lives and the fear that black people really do have sometimes. I mean, I'm not saying it's all black people. I'm just saying it can be a fear because of the recent events that we see on the news. But the fear of like cops dealing with minorities, mainly black people. And sometimes the fear of those people could kind of be around like white people also, like a black person being in a predominantly white area because they're fearing for their life of, okay, one or two things is going to happen to me. Either a bunch of racists are going to come and kill me, or some fearful white person is going to call the police and the police is going to kill me. Good fears to kind of point out in a movie dealing with fear. Now, everyone else, what the fuck? I don't see them as fears. They were more traumatizing situations than fear. Because all this shit could be overcome. Not to say the fear, like Cody's fear or Dan's fear. No, not Dan. I'm sorry. Cody's fear or Gavin's fear can't be overcome. Because those fears could be overcome too. But those have more deep-seated, rooted fears than Alice's fear, who fears her grandmother. She never liked her grandmother. So she feared her. I felt like that could have been overcome. Or like Dan's fear, where he feared a murdered woman, but not the serial killer. He feared her for whatever reason or another. And Haley's fear, let's not get on that piece of shit's fear. Her fear could easily be overcome no matter what. I mean, shit. I'll admit, when I was young, I used to be afraid of Chucky, but it was like, who wasn't afraid of Chucky when they were young? Especially if like you have like an older sibling who terrorized you with that shit. I'm just saying, that shit happened to me. But I overcame that fear by the time I hit like middle school. And was just thinking like, why was I afraid of this motherfucker in the first place? This dude is not scary at all. He's just funny. Like, come on now. But that was finishing off my thought of fear. Finishing off my thought of fear. Their fears, I feel like, it didn't buy me into the movie too much. It actually lost me for a bit. Not only with their age, but also like the whole fear concept. That was very dumb. What was also kind of dumb to me, which we were talking about fear, but also this movie is based on how kind of like technology is overrunning our lives a bit. Now, I get like the whole concept of the fact that we are becoming a society where the phones is pretty much taking over, man. Like social media, everything around it, that shit is taking over. We are definitely, well, at least for younger generations, we are definitely a generation that's too plugged into the internet. Not to say it's a bad thing, because technology is definitely is what helping us advance as a world and country. But like everything good that comes, there are drawbacks. For the simple fact, I mean, technology now, as some people would claim, at least in my circles, they kind of claim it sometimes, is that we're losing touch with like human interaction and human connections. It's more internet based than anything. And I guess that's what this movie tries to touch on. Well, not really that deep of a level, but more on the fact that we're always around technology and we're always stuck on technology. And we see that metaphor in a scene with Dan when he tries to pick up Haley after he gets that phone call from her, which he thought it was her, but really it was Mr. Bedevil playing a cruel joke on him. He goes to the theater that Haley is performing at and tries to pick her up. As soon as he sees her, he gets a phone call from the real Haley, who tells him come to her house because she's in fear of being alone. Now, when that happens, he starts to see his fear come to life. And when he sees that fear come to life, he drops his phone. As soon as he drops his phone, he starts running off. He then remembers, oh shit, I left my phone. Now, here's the thing. I wonder how many of you guys literally left somewhere and the first thing you thought about was, oh shit, I'm leaving my phone. Because that's happened to me a couple of times. I remember there was a time where I didn't really give a fuck about my phone like that. But now in this time, in this day and age, and how advanced our phones are, there's times where I'm just like, oh shit, I need my phone. But anyway, point I'm making is he tries to go back for the phone, but he couldn't go back for the phone because the hallucinations from his fear is standing over the phone and his trajectory to kind of get it. But he leaves. And when he meets up with his friends and all that the next day, he says he left his phone in the theater, but when he woke up in the morning, the phone was right there on his desk. Technology staying around him all the time. That was one thing I could say that was smart about this movie. But when a movie actually loses you in the middle of like all the stupid fears and dialogue that follows, you just have to ask yourself, like, why am I watching this shit? And kind of like miss out on some of the good parts. Another good part to kind of show like technology, and after a while it was like, okay, I get it. Because we end up getting a dialogue about Cody, who is the smart one also, but also is the token black character in the movie. He makes a statement about how like technology is kind of running our lives and how just basically it's everywhere. And now we're too focused on it. That was one which I was like, okay, I get it, because I'm already putting two and two together in this movie. I mean, but I guess that's just me. I mean, if you're not, I guess if it was like someone who's just watching the movie as for what it is, will probably miss like all the nuances that's happening in the movie. But I already got the fact like, okay, this is supposed to be a movie about how technology is kind of overtaking our lives. Got it. Okay, let's move on. There was a scene with Gavin. He took his phone, threw it to the ground, and started smashing and stepping on it, which cracked the phone. Now all you hear is Mr. Bedevil like screaming and shrieking and whatever. But he ended up laughing. That didn't get rid of the phone. The phone ended up fixing itself. And the phone was just as good as new. Now, that's another form of like how technology is running our lives, how we're just not getting away from it. And he's making that statement too, Mr. Bedevil, I should say. He's making that statement that you cannot escape technology. As long as we're advancing, there's no way you can escape it, which is what he was doing, was advancing and learning. But let me touch base on Mr. Bedevil a bit, which is another reason why I hated this movie. A monster himself that's supposed to be a technological spirit, some kind of paranormal spirit. I honestly don't know what the fuck this nigga was, but yeah. He was definitely supposed to be someone kind of traumatizing or scary or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. I didn't get it. I didn't get whether he was supposed to be just someone who terrorized those main characters, or is he terrorizing everybody around the world? And here's why. Because we find out later on in the movie that he's just not on their app. Well, he's just not on their phone. He's actually in millions and millions of people's phones. And this is where I see another plot twist to this movie. Because we are all in this technological age, right? And in this technological age, there's always somebody to kind of to expose what's happening. So say like there's a fucking virus in, I don't know, all iPhone phones. I'm pretty sure there's going to be somebody on YouTube that will make a video of it and expose that shit for what it is. Like remember the time when Samsung had all their phones exploding in people's pockets and shit? Man, were the iPhone crowd people excited about that shit. But yeah, that's a clear example of if some shit was to go down with like some kind of app or some kind of technology based device, the shit would get exposed. There's no way you could hide that shit. And to me, I just felt like there was no way this motherfucker, Mr. Bedevil, clearly stop all the fucking YouTubers or anybody going on YouTube talking about, hey, don't fucking download this app, bro, because this motherfucker will know everything about you and will bring out your greatest fears. Hell, I'm surprised there's no one making a video in this movie's world. I'm surprised there's no one that made a video talking about all the shit that they encounter and telling people like, hey, the way I beat Mr. Bedevil, I face my fears. But instead, we get treated into this dumbass bullshit. This dumbass line of we need to build a virus, which is built by the character Cody, which I might add, I like the fact that they did take the black character, even though they end up killing him. I thought he was going to survive through the end. But it's like they always say, black people die first in every horror movie. At least he wasn't the first to die. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, we get treated to this idea of Cody building this virus to kind of destroy Mr. Bedevil. It works for him trying to save Alice. Of course, we have to always say the token blonde hair white girl in the movie, right? Actually, blondes are supposed to die too. Shit. I guess Bedevil didn't get that note. But what happens is he was able to save Alice, but he wasn't able to get himself saved because somehow Mr. Bedevil managed to go from attacking Alice to attacking Cody. And I honestly was totally lost on that idea because I'm thinking, okay, if he's building a virus to take out Mr. Bedevil, why isn't it working for everybody else? Why is it just working for her? So the shit totally lost me. That shit definitely totally lost me. That is another reason why I'd say this movie wasn't that great. Because I feel like they could have took the it approach. Face the fear. I mean, even seeing Mr. Bedevil himself, when they finally show this motherfucker and in all of his glory and what he looks like, he's not even scary looking. He just looks weird. He looks like some cheap attraction at Disneyland, bro. That's basically it. And speaking of fearing, even the jump scares was lame, and the death scenes were lame also. Like, everything happens off screen. Now, if you're somebody that's not into gore, but you kind of like watching scary movies, this might be the movie for you. I mean, that's literally what I felt. I felt like this movie was like either produced by Nickelodeon or MTV. But they put like some lame ass writers together, probably that were on an internship, and just like put a really trash ass movie together just to say like, hey, we produced something. Yeah, I didn't really care for it. Yeah, so the jump scares was lame, death scenes were lame, because we were treated to either seeing a lot of things happening off screen. The only thing we got was just a bunch of people either popping out or jumping out. Somewhat people banging on doors or walls or anything like that. But it wasn't in a way to where you would jump. At least I wouldn't jump. I mean, the movie at most just felt like a very toned down horror movie. And that's about it. I mean, in closing to this argument, in closing to this whole subject about Bedevil, I mean, if you guys want to check that shit out, I mean, it's on Netflix. See for yourself. See how you like it. If you've seen it already, you probably feel either one or two things because this is no in the middle. You either like it or you hate it. And I could tell you one thing, I hate it. I mean, it's no movie like you will see from Veronica. And honestly, I can't tell you which one is the worst one. Either Babadook or this piece of shit. I mean, I actually expressed some like for the Babadook. But Devil, I really do not have any kind of like for it. So that would kind of clearly answer what I feel about it. But other than that, y'all, I mean, check it out. It's on Netflix. Other than that, I'm about to sign out, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you guys enjoy it, please leave a like, subscribe. It doesn't matter what you on, whether you're on YouTube, SoundCloud. I'm like forgetting all my shit for a moment. But yeah, if you're on like YouTube or SoundCloud, definitely follow. If you guys want to leave a comment on YouTube, go ahead. I know you could leave comments now on SoundCloud, so go ahead. Also leave a feedback there too. Other than that, you guys just enjoy the rest of your day, man. And I'll see you guys another day. So this is your boy signing out. Let's talk about horror with Walterdoom. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.